grab my gear, load the truck. Heading out, don't give a truck. Rifles locked, boots tied tight. Gonna catch that deer all through the night. Hunting in the highland hill, chasing dreams and catching thrills. The wind is howling, the game is near. In the woods, our favorite place, my dear. Hunting in the highland hill.
Good afternoon, this is Davey T from Field Sports Scotland, and I am here to do a quick review or a kind of scope review today. I get kind of excited about this one because when this first got announced, I asked Hik Micro if I could actually get first dibs at it. Very rarely do I get first dibs at a scope before all the rest of the guys get, who are affiliated with retailers and stuff like that. Now, I was promised it would come to me almost immediately as it was released, but it didn't happen. And for some reason or another, I don't know why it never happened, but it didn't happen. So over the months, I kind of thought, well, I'm seeing more and more reviews in regards to this scope. This is the Hik Micro Alpex LRF 4K. It is a fantastic scope, by the way, but we'll get to that in a minute. And over the months, I thought to myself, right, I'm not going to get a chance to view this scope. I'm not getting a chance to actually have a proper input on it, because the fact of the matter is, it's starting to be reviewed to death. I kid you not. Other guys out there have already turned around and said what everybody, well, it's a night vision scope basically, and all the other guys have already got their opinions on how it is at night, and it is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, as a digital night vision scope with daytime mode, it is fantastic, and for night vision it has been literally reviewed to death. I don't see many guys doing the review with the IR that you can get with this. This one didn't come with an IR, but I have seen them adding extra IRs on and stuff like that, and to be honest, to me, that defeats the purpose in regards to a night vision review, because genuinely the IR is the probably most key part of a night vision unit. However, it has proved that the laser rangefinder and all that works at night and stuff like that. So when Toby at Armour Clouds, and I will say that I'm affiliating this, this is kind of sponsored. I haven't gained any money, or this is not my scope. This is actually going back in its box once I take the mount off and going back to Armour Clouds. But Toby, I've had a long relationship with Armour Clouds in regards to buying products for them. It's the primary gun shop that I go to buy products. And Toby says, look, they're starting to partner up with Hik Micro. Would you like to try some of their products? And as you've seen on one of my other videos, I got a sneak peek at that, the new Habrock, I think it's HL25. I can't remember the bits of it. You'll see it on my other videos. I had a sneak preview, and while I was there, I was given this one to do a full review on, but not for night vision. My review is not for fox control or night vision. The question is, will the Hik Micro Alpex 4K replace a traditional day scope such as, what one have we got here? The Zeiss Conquest V6 or the Zeiss Conquest V4. So I've got a couple of Zeisses there, and it's saying, well, will it replace it? And do you know what? Throughout the point of this review, I have to say that it's been quite an interesting journey. In fact, a really interesting journey. Because one of the things that really, the reason why that question is so difficult for me is up until the 1st of November last year, it was illegal to shoot deer at night or daytime with one of these, even if you did have a license. A digitally enhanced scope would be illegal to shoot deer because it was technically a camera that relied on a battery. Now, I could see the theory in that, and old technology and older technology, where the technology was very grainy and very difficult. And frankly, if we go to Pulsar Digex, for instance, the original Digex, which one was this, N450, well, that was black and white during the day, didn't give a lot of good clarity during the day. In sunshine, it was pretty useless. Still a good scope. I never said it's not a good scope. It's a good scope at night, but it's very old tech now. Probably worth not a lot of money anymore, these ones. However, I've got a couple of these. With the newer tech, with the day option, the day optics that you've got, the clarity in the picture is fantastic. However, as I said, it was illegal in Scotland to be able to talk about using one of these scopes for deer on top of your rifle. And so this is a unique, for me, this is very unique, and it's a very controversial topic, because a lot of guys who stalk, they won't use one of these. They'll still think, oh, it's not ideal. There is benefits though, and we'll come to that in a minute. So it is controversial. There's guys that will talk about these scopes and for day stalking, and they'll not fully understand the technology involved in it and the benefits it is to them. However, they'll have a lot of opinions on regards to using it. And it's like using thermal to spot. A lot of traditional stalkers are still using clear scope, spotting scopes and whatever to stalk into deer and to find deer. Commercial-wise, a lot of guys are moving to thermal now for finding deer, and then using the spotting scopes after that or now digital binoculars to identify species and a cullable deer. So it's a pretty unique review in regards to this, because is this scope capable of replacing a daytime scope? And that's what we're going to investigate today. First of all, anyway, we'll go through, I've got an unboxing video, but we'll go through what's in the box, and we'll talk about the price point and everything like that first. So firstly, in the box, a really good quality box, by the way. I'm just trying to keep it good because I've got to go back, and it'll probably be owned by somebody at some point. Really firm case. A good, substantial, hard case, which is great. Bear in mind, I have been in here before, so as I said, I've already done an unboxing video for this, and I'll put that up. We have got a nicely padded, well-positioned scope bay, and even with the mount, it fits in quite nicely, covers quite nicely, can be closed quite nicely. So you can pretty much take your scope out with if you have a mono mount, and basically pack it away when you're not using it. If you've got a one-piece quick detach, which will allow you to return to zero, which I've got on it. Good for traveling and stuff. You have your app, which we'll come to in a little while, You have your app little brochure here that tells you how you can connect to the app and connect your product, register your product, update your product, put new firmware in the product. And you've got your quick start guide. Bear in mind there's only a little bit in here, but it's worth reading. It'll only take you a couple of minutes and that will get you started 100%. Any questions, especially if you've not used to these scopes. You have your strap for your case, which is actually quite a good quality strap, very heavy duty strap actually. You have your USB-C type, which means if you've got a normal smartphone, a modern smartphone, that'll charge up the scope as well as the you get a charger, you got a 2-bay charger, but you also get given a Hik Micro branded 18650 battery, which is fantastic because that's the thing about, say, the Pulsar units. The Pulsar units come with batteries that you have to buy from Pulsar. This will take any 18650 battery, which is great because us guys who work in night vision and stuff like that, we always have lots of 18650. We use them in head torches, we use them in torches, we use them in all sorts of stuff. So genuinely, you get one of these. I've already charged this one up, so I'm putting it back in. So although I've done an unboxing, I am doing a reboxing for the scope as well. You get a link cloth and you get a couple of shims or reflectors or whatever for your mounts, protective covers for your mounts. So pretty basic stuff inside the box. The main part of this is not the box though. The main part of this is the scope. I'm just throwing this all back together for you to kind of see what's going on. I'll stick these books back in. Put this over there. I'll fiddle about with this and get them all done up nice for later once I take the scope mounts off. So again, good quality hardish flexible case, which is really good. These products are increasingly becoming good quality in regards to that sort of stuff. Now, I zeroed this on my 6.5 Creedmoor. Actually, to be fair, I originally zeroed it on my 223, and I was planning to do some road deer with it, and then I thought, oh, do you know what, I've got some Sika to do, I've got some reds to do. Although the footage that I did take that I'm going to post on this video along with this is it's actually quite a fascinating footage, so that's the bit I'm going to use. And bear in mind, I could fit hundreds of footage over all the stuff that I've got on reviews, but then this review and then other videos like it will be, I don't know, hours long. We're not just talking like minutes long, we're talking hours. So I'm not going to go into the full works and me going through a stock and all that. You guys already know all this. This is not the key important part. I will show you a roebuck that I've taken. It's a fascinating footage in regards to how it's behaving and stuff like that. So it was also in very low light conditions because we were coming out, it was after sunset. Which legally, as stalkers know, they've got an hour after sunset where the hour's grace after sunset and an hour before sunset. And I've got some footage of some Sika hinds on the same night as well, which is actually quite fascinating. It gives proper low light. And bear in mind, after I did the footage of the Sika hinds, I actually had to walk back to the car with a head torch. So there is some really good footage that I'm going to accompany this with, but I want to do all the talking part of this because the talking part is very useful. As I said, it's unique to me to talk about these scopes when it comes to deer stalking because we were never allowed to, in Scotland anyway, we weren't allowed to use it for deer stalking. I know in England you could, so that there's been a few guys that have talked about scopes in the past and various other brands in the past in regards to their deer stalking experiences and the videos and that I've seen. But in Scotland, it was a bit of a taboo subject. The only guys that really did it were guys who didn't know what they were doing, didn't know it was illegal, or they deliberately did it because it was just, they didn't see the point in the law. However, it is now not illegal to use these, and it's great. So zeroing the scope was actually relatively easy. There's quite an extensive menu, and you kind of have to look, like, properly think about what you're doing when you're zeroing. The freeze frame is perfect. The image, being able to zero these scopes, and as I've seen in other reviews, the more modern technology allows for proper daytime usage. Zeroing these scopes during the day without having to do stupid stuff like blacking out boards or using completely white backdrops and that. The detail you get for these scopes to zero them is fantastic. The other thing about it is as I said, originally wanted to zero in my 223, and then I decided against that. And bearing in mind, I usually use my 223 for foxing and doing some roe deer stuff. I decided to put this on my 6.5 Creedmoor because the fact of the matter is it does boast a ballistic calculator, it's got a laser rangefinder, and it is solely going to be used. It was solely going to be used for daytime coverage. So I put it on my 6.5 Creedmoor and zeroed it in, and without any hassle whatsoever, I managed to get 5 shots, sub half MOA, dead centre of the target, and it seemed to hold zero after that, which was great. So mounted it using these American Defence mounts, the mono mount, quick detach. I've used these on my night vision scopes before, and I think they're brilliant. So they are return to zero, or close enough to zero, maybe half an inch off or an inch off sometimes, but you always expect that when you take scopes on and off anyway. So I really do like the mounts. However, the scope stayed true. It stayed comfortable. It was very comfortable to use. The eye relief is very good, and I had no fear that I was going to have any problems with the eye relief with a bigger caliber. 6.5 Creedmoor's not got a huge recoil, but it's not that much different from a 270 or a 308 or whatever. You'll still get a bit of a thump back, and there is a risk if the eye relief is too short that you'll damage your eye if you're not careful what you're doing. I didn't have any issues with this. It was rated for well higher than the recoil of a 6.5 Creedmoor, so again, fantastic. So I was very pleased with the zeroing side of things. Really pleased with the zero side of things. Took it out into the field, took some footage with it in very low light, high humidity, in the mist, and do you know, I have no qualms about this whatsoever. I have no problems in regards to how I feel about using this as a day scope. I do have a few concerns. There's the battery life in this is 11 hours. I didn't have any problems with the battery when I was out. However, if I was going on like what I do up north, if I had 2 or 3 days where I had guests and I was camping out and the guests were going back to hotels or whatever, and I didn't have access to power supplies and stuff like that, that's where the day scope comes into it. 11 hours of footage is great, or 11 hours of continuous use is brilliant if you're only shooting for maybe 5 or 6 hours, or if you're turning it on and off every few hours or whatsoever. Now, I do have to say that if I was on a prolonged trip, I would probably prefer to take a day scope with me on my rifle, mainly because of the fact the battery life. The battery life, as I said, fantastic for what it is. As long as you've not got Wi-Fi and everything running, it is fantastic. But what can this scope do that a day scope can't? Right. and I didn't put this in my written review because I've done a written review and that's already published. This scope has the ability to connect to the app for live viewing. So when you're with a guest, a novice, which I deal with, and I prefer to deal with most of the time because experienced stalkers, see, as soon as a stalker turns around and says and books a guided day with me, he says, oh, I've stalked 100 times before and I'm very, very competent. That just makes me curl into a ball a little bit because then no matter what I say or do, they're not going to listen to me. They're not there to learn. They're there just to stalk a deer and shoot a deer, and each on their own head in regards to what happens after that. And I get a lot of mistakes from guys who say that they're seasoned stalkers. But when you're with a novice who has never shot before or has maybe limited experience, I can connect this scope to my phone and lie beside him or her or whatever, and I can see what they're aiming at. So if I think, oh, they're aiming too low on a deer, or the distance is a little bit too far for their ability, or it just, there's not enough backstop, or there's a right back. There might be a backstop at my angle, what I can see, but there might be something that there might not be a safe shot from their angle, sort of thing. So from around about 10 feet away, I can actually view what's going on. Likewise, when you have that zero-in session or that familiarization session with them before you go for a stalk, and you get to see where they're aiming and if they're pulling or they're flinching, or how the scope's behaving, how the rifle's behaving in their hands, because even the smallest movement, if they're nervous, can cause a deer to be wounded. So it does reduce the chance of wounding by novices, providing the guide's doing his part and actually watching what his or her part is watching what's actually happening. So that's a good thing about the scope that a day scope can't do. What other things? The low light capabilities are far greater than a day scope. Even if you get a Zeiss Victory HT, which has got around about 94% light transmission, the digital display, the digital camera on this has good light reduction, and provided you're not into the nighttime hours, you can switch this to black and white mode and it will run on its ambient light. So you do actually have that extra. You've got the extra in color mode and you've got the extra in black and white mode, so that gives you that extra 10-15 minutes over a day scope. So you are genuinely shooting right up to last light. Recording is a good function. You can record with these scopes. You can document your hunt. You can learn. You can review the footage and learn from either your mistakes, or if something weird happened, at least you can document it a lot better. The other thing about it is where I've come across this before, because sometimes I do this with guests. I'll video on using my thermal if I've got my thermal spotter with me. I'll video using my thermal spotter when they go and take a shot, because there might be 150 to 200 yards between you and the deer, and the terrain might be slightly different. So you might be shooting from one side of the hill to another side of the hill. So when you take the shot, and even if it's a good shot, when you get down into the valley, or you get down into the walk up to the deer to recover that deer, the terrain can get quite confusing, especially when you've got other distractions. You want to put the rifle away safe, and you want to do various others. And now basically I don't do a lot of open hill stalking anymore. It's mostly forestry or clear fell. So when you're down there, everything looks the same, and it's the same on the hill too. So, but you're not afforded the ability to spend hours searching for a deer on in a clear fell or whatever. So being able to review the footage of the direction the deer may have ran that you maybe not noticed, or even the distance. It's not been the first time in a clear fell where I've walked by where I thought the deer was, and I've walked by the deer to where I thought the deer was, and it's actually been a lot closer than what I actually shot at, or the guest has shot at. So there is that, so you can actually look back your footage for better deer recovery, better recovery and that. So that they're all pluses. The one big minus in regards to having one of these over, say, one of these is weight. There is probably a good 20 grams of difference, 30 grams of difference, maybe even more. I'll have to weigh them to figure it out. But like, I've got mounts on these. I've got a couple of tier 1 rings on there. They're probably about the same weight as what that one piece is. Size, as you can see there, move that plastic out of the way. You can see the size difference. There is a clear size difference, length difference, but various different scopes are different scopes. The bulkiness of this scope is far bigger. We'll even take the V6, which is shorter than the V4. Genuinely, length and size and weight difference between them is considerable. And a lot of guys like to stock with lighter scopes because they're walking for a long period of time, and stalking rifles tend to be a lot lighter than, say, fox and light rifles or precision rifles. So guys who do a lot of stalking will probably adopt a far lighter rifle setup than, say, someone who is going out foxing or even rabbiting, but foxing or somebody who's going to the range and target shooting. But even though it's a little bit bulkier, a little bit bigger, now there is bigger scopes out there, bigger day scopes that are about this weight. Your Razor Gen 3s and stuff like that, they're about this weight. Some of your bigger tube scopes will be about this weight. So I'm not saying it's overly heavy, it's not massively heavy, but it's well balanced, it really is. Even though the camera is at the front, there's not a lot of weight to the front of the scope. As you see in my hand there, there's not a lot of weight to the front of the scope compared to what's at the back. So it's well balanced, and it does sit on a rifle very well. So you don't really notice the weight too much, but it is a little bit bulkier and a little bit heavier. I didn't get this with an IR, which was, I don't know if it does come with an IR. I think some do, some don't. The price point, there's a good point on this. £849 is what our McLeods and Tane are selling it for, which isn't a heck of a lot of money when you consider what you're getting for the money. You're getting laser rangefinder, you're getting bullet drop comparator, bullet drop assistance as well. So the laser rangefinder will range, and then it will tell you on your scope, on your reticle, where that range is and where to shoot from, which again is fantastic. That is amazing. What else can I say about it? Low light capabilities, the images, what is the plus side? To be honest, would I happily use this for stalking? 100% yes. Would I give up my day scopes? 100% no. But I would happily run this system on a day on a day rifle. It's not as expensive as a day scope can be. It also, in many ways, has got a lot of facilities that a day scope just doesn't. The bullet drop was easy to set up and very accurate, as you'll see on the footage with the roebuck. The quality of the image in low light's fantastic. I'm just repeating myself all the time, I think. My actual thoughts, could this be used for day stalking? And apart from all the controversy, yes, 100%. If this is a scope, if you're shooting roe deer, right? Well, just picture this scenario. If your main deer is roe deer and the rest of your shooting is pest control, deer, rabbits, or whatever. Put this on a 22250 or a 223, right? And literally, you could. This could be the only scope you'll need. You could be shooting all day deer, muntjac, Chinese water deer, roe deer, all the small deer, and if I put it on your 223, add an IR for night vision, and go straight onto foxing. That is a big deal. Could it fully replace the day scopes? I don't think so in regards to long periods of stalking like what I do in occasions. I think I would still have to have my go-to rifle for going to the woods, especially at this time of year where there's no night shooting. I would probably still opt for a day scope. However, and I thought about this before I actually before I came and did the review. The one thing that I can't have on my day scopes is this bullet drop facility. The ballistic calculator on this is a game changer. I don't need to shuffle about getting my rangefinder out, spending a lot of time trying to remember ranges, trying to remember what your drops are. Right? You do it kind of automatically in your head anyway, but it takes away a lot of the error involved in it. One thing I will add, a lot of questions will come when you are setting up the ballistic calculator on this. It doesn't ask for bullet diameter or bullet size. The reason for this, and I double checked this with a few people, and I agree with them, is that for long range stuff you need to know about spin drift, etc. For the ranges used for hunting, you don't need that same data. So as long as you've got the ballistic coefficient of the round and the speed of the round, you can pretty much get all the data that you need from that, which is, it's important that you know your speeds. And when people complain about the ballistic calculators on these scopes or any other scope, it's not usually down to the scope. It's usually down to the data that has been put into the scope. So kind of just have to keep an eye on that as well. But all in all, this is a fantastic scope. And in my ratings, I gave on my review 4.5 out of 5, which is technically 8 out of 10. And the only thing that I might add is that for those guys who like to record, the sound quality on this scope particularly is awful. It's very robotic and very industrial sounding, and to deer stalkers that's not a big deal, and to most people who will use this scope that is not a big deal. They'll usually back up their, if they are posting their images on or their stuff on YouTube or whatever. So in conclusion, what I'm going to say is I'm going to start taking the mounts off of this, pack it up and get it back to Armaclydes. I'm a bit gutted because I would like to keep it, and I might actually have to go down the route of purchasing one in the next few months myself, because I think it's going to be a fantastic addition to what I've got. And in fact, as the future brings it, and I've got night licenses starting in September and stuff like that, I think this would be an excellent scope to enhance my deer management. And considering deer management is going to be a big part of the future of Scotland, I think scopes like this will play a big part. And I'm going to say this, final say on this, I would rather have one of these than a thermal scope on top of my rifle. And the reason for that is, species, sex, and basically identification of what I'm shooting. Actually having real-time identification, digitally enhanced or otherwise, and not just a heat signature. I think spot with a spotter, shoot with one of these, and you'll never go wrong. Anyway, thanks for listening to this review, and again, there'll be more reviews coming in the future. Thank you for tuning in to Field Sport Scotland, and like and subscribe. Thank you.